Hello everybody and welcome to another video on Opendoor. So today I want to explore reason number 4 why I think Opendoor uh, will be doing so well and will be such a successful company, and why I'm invested in Opendoor. Obviously this is not investment advice. So reason number 4 may seem counterintuitive, but I actually think the recent layoffs improve Opendoor. I think the recent layoffs are a good thing for Opendoor. I think these layoffs are proactive and they are more in line with the way a business is run. Sure, there is short-term human cost to layoff, and I don't want to minimize that. There is always short-term human costs and so some costs associated with severance. The first month where layoffs are announced, that quarter typically there's a little bit of cost, but over the long run, I believe that layoffs make a firm, a software data-driven firm like Opendoor. I believe that this makes that firm more efficient, because Opendoor is a software firm. Opendoor is not a firm that is front-facing, where humans are front-facing the customer. It's not that. It's a firm where the software is the face of the firm, not the front level employee. And that's it. That's a major difference. That is a major difference. Um, and again, why are layoffs good? Right? I mean, this could be seen as a general conversation about tech as well. But in general, why do we like layoff in tech? Because you eliminate slack, you eliminate the least needed jobs, right? When you eliminate the least needed job, it forces software adoption and automation throughout the organization. There is less human force within the firm, and you need to replace that force with software force. Sometimes managers get complacent and they don't want to force change. Maybe they have a few employees that can be replaced by software, but they don't want to do it for reasons that are very human. Oh, you hired them. Oh, I like XYZ person because they work at my firm. I don't want to lay them off. This is not a feeling that managers like to do. The fact that the leadership decides of a widespread across the board layoff makes change easier. It's a resource constraint. Layoffs force the firm to focus on the most pressing need and most important opportunities. This is why, in the case of a tech company like Opendoor, layoffs are a good thing. You're refocusing the firm. You're cutting out the slack. You're making the firm more lean. That's how modern software organizations work. Whenever there's a downturn, it is an opportunity to make your firm leaner and to make your firm more agile. And Opendoor took that opportunity. Here are other big advantages about the recent layoffs. Advantage number 2 of the layoff is what? Is you have fewer opportunities for human errors. Real estate is a field that has been prone to really, really bad human errors. Errors of discrimination, bias, underwriting. So many estimates, so many different errors are introduced when humans make decisions, because humans have biases, mostly subconscious biases that we don't even realize we have. But humans have biases. Machines have only biases to the extent that they're coded by humans, but even then they are coded less and less by humans. Software writes itself more and more. So software as a whole gives an opportunity to the software teams to correct any of the human errors that may arise. That's why most airplanes, for example, are flown by software. It's the software who drives an airplane, right? That's why most cars will be driven by software. That's because most accidents happen from human errors. And when you reduce staff, you reduce those opportunities for human error. And then the obvious one, which I don't need to spend a lot of time on, but it's lower cost. Obviously, human capital is very expensive. Human labor is very expensive, obviously. And thus, that lowers the cost. But that's an obvious one. You didn't need me to figure that one out. Why are they good too? They are good because there is a realization that revenue growth at Opendoor needs to be done through operating software at scale. and not through hiring employees. A software firm like Opendoor grows by scaling the software and replicating the software in different cities and landing software in different cities and starting the flywheel of Opendoor in different cities. This is called the land and expand model. Software needs to do the heavy lifting. It is not staff that needs to do the heavy lifting. If staff does the heavy lifting, that's going to be an impediment to growth. You are not going to grow your revenue as fast if it is your staff that actually operates the company. Your staff, your employees, your managers need to build a company that operates itself, but the company needs to operate itself. This is a fundamental distinction between a modern tech data-driven firm versus a legacy human-driven firm. Very, very different concepts. Then, why are layoffs good again? Reduced managerial complexity. So because the layoff was 18% of the staff, you've reduced 18% of connections between subordinate and managers. There are fewer connections. And the less the layers of management, the less a firm has layers of managers between the CEO and the coding level or the coder or the engineer level of the firm or the lower level, as some people could call it, the fewer connections you have, the more agile the firm is. Because all of a sudden, if you are in an entry-level position, you only have two bosses to go through to get to a permission to start a new project or to buy something, right? The more management complexity there is in a company, the less agile the firm is. Because as companies become bigger in terms of numbers of employees, they become more complex. And I think layoffs reduce this complexity. There's less layers of management, which is a good thing because we want Opendoor to be an agile firm. Opportunities for strategic renewal. This is very important. So whenever you do a layoff, and I do believe that some of that layoff also has to do with a little bit of Wall Street pressure. Hey, you have 6 billions of cash, 6 billion of cash. You want to make sure you don't run through it, a little too fast. So you want to make sure you lower your costs. So there is some pressure. So I don't want to undermine the layoff. Like layoffs, when you lay off that many people, you are going to lay off some good people, but you're also going to lay off people who are not as committed to the firm. And this brings in strategic renewal because when the firm grows again and when new hires are needed, you can better hire employees that fit the firm's evolving strategy. So this forced turnover has a benefit for strategic renewal because you are going to bring in people with different backgrounds, different opportunities, more fresh knowledge. So that's also a benefit to think about. Then, why are layoffs good, right? So whenever you lay off, whenever you do any layoff, you typically have about 50% more of an employee that naturally quit. Because layoffs create natural attrition. Layoffs create natural attrition because when you're working in a department and you see a friend or another friend get laid off, you're going to have a share of the staff that is naturally not going to like that. And that is going to say, oh, Opendoor did wrong to my teammate, and thus I am going to quit. So that's why layoffs typically, like when a firm layoffs say 10%, typically they mean to lay off 15%. That's one thing that we need to do because post-layoff there is natural attrition. And I believe this is also good because that's a tad more layoffs. So for that's good because you save costs, you improve efficiency. Efficiency is good. But also you get this. The employees that self-select themselves out is a useful way to know who's really committed to a firm and who's not, because you're going to have people who are going to self-select themselves out of the firm. So you know that the aftermath quits the quits that come in the aftermath of the announced layoff typically tend to be done by people who are less committed to the firm. So this is also good because you're increasing commitment to the firm. Okay. I just want to make this case right here. Opendoor is what? Opendoor is a data-driven software platform. It is not a human-driven brokerage. Opendoor is not creating human-driven brokerages across 50, 70, 100 metropolitan areas in the US. That's not what it's doing. Opendoor is building a data-driven software platform or operating system, whatever you want to call it, stack, that is expanded to different cities in America. That is a major difference. The software runs itself. It is human. Uh, the human-driven component of the software is building the firm, right? So human capital is needed on the back end of Opendoor. It is not needed at the front of the firm, unlike a brokerage, where at the brokerage, your local successful real estate company, it is the real estate agent that is going to be the face of the firm, that is going to be representing the firm. So in that case, human capital is very important. You better hire good. But in the case of Opendoor, it's not. In the case of Opendoor, the face of the firm to the customer is the app, right? And that's what Opendoor is promoting. So it builds an app, right? And then it hires people to build the app. That's a major difference from a lot of industries, not just brokerages. A brokerage is a people industry. A software platform is a data-driven industry or a software-driven industry, right? But there's other examples of industry, like if you were to compare, say, nursing, say, restaurants, say, school teaching, these are human-driven industries. This is not the case of a company like Opendoor. Opendoor is first and foremost software-driven, software built by humans, which is a major difference that a lot of tech firms have. So again, Opendoor customers specifically seek to use the app. It's just like Robinhood or Square. They don't associate their stock trader or their banker with the app, right? They don't choose because of a relationship that they have with you, and they choose because they want an app. So this is a shift. This is a shift in the way business is done. The relationship between the customer and the company is done through an app and not through a human. Sorry to be repeating myself, but I really want to drive this point home because I think it's very important. People tend to associate company size and company success by the number of employees. Actually, if you read a lot of academic research on business, you measure size with the number of employees. That is not how modern businesses measure their size. You don't measure your size based on how many employees you have. Imagine still having to make a phone call to a financial advisor every time you wish to buy or sell a stock. Actually, most of these legacy brokers still have that, right? If you go with a historic broker, you still have to make a phone call. It's $25, and they'll buy or sell a stock for you, and you get to talk to someone. Of course, these brokerages are on the way out for stocks, right? It's more and more. It's almost fully 100% automated. I don't know anybody who calls their broker to make a transaction, but it used to be like that for the longest time. The same is going to be true for traditional real estate, except it is an anomaly today that if you are interested in buying a home through a traditional real estate process, it is still the phone call system. It is still, you send an email, hey, I want to see the house, what's your phone number? And they call you. It is still that. It is not as simple as a point and click interface. So that's a major shift right there. Again, the incoming wave of new buyers, the millennials, the Gen Z, whoever comes after the Gen Z, they want a digitally native experience. They want a chat box, right? They want an easy app to use. They want to do everything in the app with minimal interaction. That is the way of all of these modern applications. Minimal interactions with humans, mostly driven by software. It's a human-software interaction, okay? Opendoor, furthermore, as an Uber-like model for its local operations, right? So for example, if you want to visit a house, they have a tour assistant come. That tour assistant is not an employee of Opendoor. That tour assistant is getting paid $25 an hour as an individual contractor. The same is true for Opendoor's network of vendors that fix up their own. They work as independent contractors, right? The same is true for the Opendoor agents, right? Once you've committed to buy a house, Opendoor matches you to an Opendoor agent who's getting paid a certain fee for the transaction that they're about to do. But it's a highly scalable system where as demand grows, payouts grow to independent contractors, and as demand goes down, payouts go down. So that's highly, highly flexible. It is not like having a workforce of full-time employees, because a workforce of full-time employees is not as flexible, not nearly as flexible, right? And the platform will become more and more automated with time. And it's already very automated, but it will become so much more automated. The goal is really to minimize employee interventions and use employee skills to build a maximally automated autonomous platform. The goal is to write the recipe and the machine cooks the food. To use a food analogy, you are writing the recipe of success. That's what employees should be doing in the modern corporation. And I'll finish with this machine analogy. Opendoor is the machine, the software, the app, the operating system that disrupts traditional real estate. Employees work on improving this machine daily, and they solve problems and emergencies. But they do not run the machine. This is how most tech firms operate. YouTube, Google, it's 100% independent, right? And if you have a problem with, I don't know, Instagram or Google, you have to fill a form. And sometimes, or Amazon, right? You have a problem with Amazon reviews. You want to complain about an Amazon review, you have to fill a form. And then you may have to wait 21 days until a human actually intervenes, because these machines are running on their own. And humans are there to build and expand the capabilities of the software machine, of the software stack. But we are not there to actually run the software stack. This is how these businesses can scale to very, very high productivity levels and to very large corporations. Without to hire that many employees, you just need the very, very best employees at what they do. You don't need, it's not about count. Count matter, the numbers of employees you hire, your employee count matters much less than the quality in this context. And I'll conclude with this. Opendoor and Opendoor's HR policy, and I think the way they run it from everything that I can see and study, is aligned with how 21st century software first modern enterprises are run. Opendoor is very aligned with that. So again, in conclusion, this was not investment advice. I do not want to minimize the hurt that layoffs do. Layoffs are meaningful. I mean, for lack of a better word, they suck. It's not a good thing to be laid off. And I want to be empathetic to people who get laid off by any firm really. But this layoff is in alignment with the way a modern corporation is run. And it is in alignment with building a leaner, agile corporation, which is what I think Opendoor is. So thank you so much for watching. This has not been investment advice. I have what, six more videos to record on Opendoor, so I'll be recording them in the next few weeks. But thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please follow me on Twitter. I will be posting threads in the future on Twitter. So if you want to access that, please don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Thank you.